One cannot deny reality. People at times seem to choose to go into total denial, to make believe things didn't happen when they happened. It's so hard to believe that after what happened on October 7th, there are those who choose to deny that it happened. There is footage, there is live footage, a live feed during these terrible atrocities as they were occurring, that they were so proud to show it off to the world. And yet they're going to deny it, that what happened happened. They're going to deny the butchering of babies in front of the parents, of raping and torturing young mothers, women. Denying, well, we know right after the Holocaust, so many people till today have been denying that the Holocaust occurred. Ahmadinejad from Iran, the former president of Iran, was so famous for denying that the Holocaust ever occurred. But yet in 2023, 2024, 2025, we have the live footage. We have the eyewitnesses. How can any society claim and deny what we saw occurred? Just listen to this conversation and draw your own conclusions.
I think there is a way. I think quite a lot of people are saying we don't know. I mean, look at the people who are denying October 7th and have spent the last 6 months, for instance, completely unnecessarily denying that there were, for instance, rapes of Israeli women by Hamas on the day. But why do they do that? I mean, it can't be that they just haven't looked into it, or it can't be that they've looked into it and persuaded that the video evidence isn't what it is, and the evidence of the first responders isn't what it is, and the evidence of the people in the morgues isn't what it is. It's that they cannot face up to what their own side does.
So there's sort of willful ignorance. They're trying to sort of psychologically insulate themselves from.
Do you know, it reminds me of something, I don't want to make the obvious comparison, but it reminds me of what people did after the Holocaust who still wanted to be Nazis. There's a great book by a German writer, Bettina Stankneff, called Eichmann Before Jerusalem, in which she described how these neo-Nazis in South America in the 1950s desperately wanted to believe that the Holocaust hadn't happened because they realized already it was a big problem for their side. And they weren't going to actually be able to get Nazism back or fascism back in Europe so long as there was this PR problem, which is how they saw it. And they get Eichmann in Argentina, and they have these tape recording sessions with him in which, among other things, Eichmann badly misreads his audience with one of the most fascinating problems of the 20th century. He gives these speeches explaining how he killed 6 million Jews.
Yeah.
And the room goes silent when he finishes because that's not what we wanted to hear.
Right.
Now, why did they not want to hear it? Because they wanted to get around the Holocaust, because they realized that there was no way you could do fascism or Nazism ever again. You would have to walk through the Holocaust, and therefore it couldn't be done. And that's what the people, I think, that's why I say it's eminently possible for them to try to get around it. Because, I mean, if somebody I supported or you supported, like, went into a country and started raping women and shooting them in the head as you rape them, I think the only thing we could do would be to say, and we would say, is like, that has happened and it's appalling, and I wonder whether my side's going wrong. Yeah. But that requires a degree of honesty, which, and it's much easier, and I think most people do, just you get around it. Yeah. You can't walk through that. They get around it. So they say, oh, it's been exaggerated, or it didn't happen, or I don't want to read about it, or it's PR, or what about Gaza? And so it's easy for these people.
Yeah, so there is, easy for these people, various forms of denial, trying to get around it. And there's another feature of denial, and I remember a thinker in the Netherlands, Paul Scheffer, used to talk about it, and he called it indifference. To what extent do we have people, just large audiences, who know perfectly well and understand exactly what it entails, but take on, maybe it's also a form of denial in itself, take on this indifferent attitude. It's not happening to me, it's not happening in my neighborhood, it's happening there.
Well, there's something that happens. I mean, there's something fascinating that happens with the nature of violence, which is that it's like something shatters around you, is my view. I mean, it happens even in, a bar fight. The first time somebody throws a fist, everything changes. And our late friend Clive James was in Cambridge in 1968 when the Garden Hotel riots happened, which was big news in Cambridge at the time, but not everybody historically remembers it. There was 68ers, they were imitating it in Cambridge, England. For some reason, they protested outside this hotel, and somebody threw a brick at the hotel. And I remember Clive said that's when everything changed. The nature of violence suddenly was on the table. And I think that if you're a student at Columbia or whatever, the really interesting thing, I think I said to you the other day, the really interesting thing I think that's happening at the moment is that they've picked up an interesting tactic of Hamas. And I think Eric Weinstein said this first, but they've picked up a tactic which is, Hamas's tactic is, please kill my people for the cameras. Or even kill me for the cameras, or kill my son for the cameras. And students at Columbia and elsewhere seem to be saying, hit me or hurt me, policeman, for the cameras. So it is actually a sort of low-level version of something which at a much more brutal level is a tactic.
And the tactic, I think we should explain to the viewers, is a tactic that's been utilized by Hamas for decades, which is to fight, to use human beings as shields, civilians as shields, hide behind children, put their military facilities in mosques, in hospitals, in schools, in markets, knowing full well that when Israel retaliates, that it's these children who will be killed, and then there's the horror of war would be then on the screens of Western consumers of the news. Yeah. And that propaganda element of condemning Israel is what works for them. So you are saying, and Eric is saying, that tactic is now being deployed by
Yes.
And that has been the war that we have seen since October 7. It was predominantly a PR war. You see, in Judaism, you save one person is saving a world. We value life, we cherish life. Versus Hamas is the antithesis to that. It's all about death, and it's all about bringing upon a carnage so that the world can get enraged over the Jewish people and Israel people. And for a large part of it, that PR war has been very successful. We were busy fighting a war trying to preserve as many civilians as possible. Of those who may be innocent, where there are very few innocent people in Gaza, we have seen the footage that when the attack occurred on October 7, the thousands of people that were lining up and cheering on, whether willingly or not, they chose to be part of this war. They started this war and they brought it upon themselves. But we cannot deny the reality, and we cannot allow the world to deny the reality of what really happened on October 7. Who would have ever thought in the 21st century, some 75 years after the Holocaust, that we're going to see such atrocities, such barbaric actions? Who would have ever imagined that we would see it in our modern day of age? Gaza had the opportunity since 2015 to become a state of its own. When Israel was driven out of Gaza, when Ariel Sharon, the prime minister at the time, driven 10,000 Israelis out of Gaza, who was dedicated, who turned Gaza into an incredible business center, with so much ingenuity, the amount of greenhouses that were there, the industry that was built. Gaza could have been a thriving industry. But when they were driven out, we saw what happened. Gaza got turned into a terror camp, a huge terror camp. And October 7 was the price we paid for once again leaving land that we were living in, that was our land from all time till now. Let's pray and hope that the world would not go into the same denial as they did after the Holocaust, but to recognize and to be aware of really what happened, and to stand and shout that this should never again happen again. God bless you. God loves you.